It is almost 10 o'clock, normally time for me to wrap up, but we still have one interview to get through to, and that, of course, is with you, Ali Komape from Africa for Palestine. A very good morning to you. Welcome. We understand that the Israeli ambassador has fled South Africa ahead of this week's vote by the Parliament of South Africa to expel the Israeli ambassador and shut down the embassy. Good news as far as Africa for Palestine is concerned?
Good morning to you and good morning to the listeners. These are good news, but these are expected news. I think most of us South Africans who received this news yesterday were one expecting them sooner rather than later. Number two, we think that the government has done um, sufficient work in creating this conducive environment for the Israeli ambassador to leave. Yeah, as you put it correctly, he fled. He didn't have a choice because the vote taking place today in Parliament, and the next few hours actually is going to take place a vote in the National Assembly on whether to expel the Israeli ambassador and to close down the embassy. Should be done. So there's an overwhelming support of that motion in the National Assembly, and Israel did not want this embarrassment. They were going to be embarrassed on a global stage. They were going to be kicked out if they did not voluntarily leave.
Okay, so I heard on another platform this morning a representative from the South African Jewish Board of Deputies saying that the ANC government had bullied them, bullied the ambassador, or rather the embassy, the Israeli embassy, bullied them into this situation. They actually got the ambassador got his back to the wall. He had no option but to leave in the way he has, and they believe, the South African Jewish Board of Deputies, that it's a very sad indictment on the South African government. Your thoughts?
It is complete hogwash. It's a complete nonsense. It was not the South African government that bullied or pressured Israel into fleeing South Africa. It was the South African public. I mean, since October 7th, there's been several protests to the embassy, including those that have been organized by the ANC, the EFF, the South African Communist Party, the Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU, the EFF, and a number of other organizations going to the Israeli embassy in Pretoria telling them, we do not want you here, we want you to leave. There've been a number of demonstrations also in terms of parliament. There've been debates on whether to keep Israel in this country or not, and ultimately that is leading to a vote today. It's not the South African government, it's the South African public that does not want the Israeli embassy here, that does not want the Israeli representatives here. In fact, a couple of months ago, when Israel was touted to be given observer status in the African Union, the African government at the time, led by Minister Nelly Pando, said, "No, not on our watch. We do not want Israel to be a representative in the African Union." The South African government has been clear. This is not bullying. That's nonsense. It's always been clear that Israel must not have normal relations with African countries if it continues to occupy Palestinian lands and to practice apartheid and commit war crimes. This is something that's been consistent from the South African government, from the South African public, that we do not want to have normal relations with an abnormal regime. It's not bullying, it's been consistent, it's based on principle, it's based on international law, and it's based on what Palestinians have asked for us to do. They've asked us to diplomatically isolate apartheid Israel until it obliges with international law, and that's what we've done. This is nonsense, it's hogwash that this is called bullying.
And absolutely the correct stance that has been taken by civil society, backed by organizations like Africa for Palestine. And I think if civil society hadn't risen up the way they have, not only in South Africa, but all around the world would have been less aware of the genocide playing out in Palestine, the senseless killing and murdering of innocent children and babies. It's almost as if they have a clear plan on annihilating Palestinian people from the face of the earth. Be that as it may, you go on to say that Africa for Palestine salutes the hundreds of thousands of South Africans who have taken to the streets, to social media and other platforms in recent weeks supporting our government, as well as calling for further and firmer action to be taken against Israel for its recent attacks on the Palestinian people, as well as for its ongoing apartheid policies and practices. What more can we do? What more ought we be doing? And do we believe that our actions then will make a difference?
Of course, our actions make a difference, and on the aspect of what can we do more, history teaches us that it is the civil society that pressures governments into certain actions. During our time of apartheid, it was citizens of the United States that pressured their own right-wing government to take particular decisions on South Africa, in the UK as well, in Scandinavian countries, or in African countries. It was the collective citizenry that went onto the street and said, "We want our government to take certain decisions on apartheid South Africa." So we can always do more. I think for Palestinians, we can always do more until they are free, until they get their liberation. So the question is, what is enough? Enough is when Palestine is free. So in this particular case, I think it's important that we continue pressuring our government into, right now, the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador is imminent. We must call for the closing down of all diplomatic relations with Israel, and that's the next step that we must go to. And for our listeners at home, I think this is a reassurance that our actions are not futile. What we do when we demonstrate in the streets, in the media space like this, social media, that someone is listening and someone is getting the message. So in this particular, we've been calling for the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador for quite some time. So when it's happening right now, it shows that our action really do work, and we must go a step further. The South African government has referred Netanyahu and his cronies to the International Criminal Court, and we expect a warrant of arrest to be given out soon for Netanyahu. So these are steps that our government is doing on our behalf. And I think these actions that we do day in and day out pressurize the government. The government listens to its citizenry and does what we ask. So these are the next step. We must call for the complete severing of ties with apartheid Israel, because like they used to say during the days of apartheid South Africa, there's no normal relations with an abnormal regime.
Okay, and regarding the issue of calling on the international community and calling out for Israel and Netanyahu and his cronies to be charged with war crimes against the Palestinian people. Ireland's government has also made the same calling. So thus far, there's only two countries that has called for this. I also know that Spain is the government of Spain and the Spanish people are very pro Palestine. They are also giving their support to the Palestinian people. So is Colombo, I think, a South American country. So there are a handful of countries who are adding their weight and their voices to this call that these people, these genocidal leaders, be held accountable. And they should be tried for war crimes against innocent people, very especially children and babies. I just want to digress slightly, but it's still part of the discussion we're having. I came across an article last week, and I haven't seen anything since playing out in the media space. It might have played out, and I might have missed it. A youngster who plays cricket. I think he's a captain. A captain for a junior South African team. I stand corrected. So are we and he went on to social media boasting about the fact that he's a proud Zionist, so is his family, and despite all of that, he is still being chosen as a captain of a cricket team. Is Africa for Palestine going to be holding Cricket South Africa responsible for this and call for him to be kicked out of the game because he so proudly states that he's a Zionist and supports Zionism and Israel, supports them unflinchingly, so to speak?
We've received a number of inquiries about this. Of course, we're still investigating that on our part. We received, I think, last week, if not, it's surely it's last. Somebody did give it to our attention, and we've raised this with the relevant bodies, especially our government. I think we must put this clear. If you support genocide, killing of innocent civilians, women and children, the elderly. It's up to you. You can do that. It's a free country. You can go around supporting that. Fine. But you can't do that when you represent us. It's just not right. You can remember during the Miss South Africa debacle a couple of months back, she wanted to represent South Africa in apartheid Israel. And we said, if you want to go and be a beauty pageant in apartheid, it's up to you. But don't go there with our flag. Don't go there representing us. We have no business participating in any event with apartheid Israel. So we've raised this with the relevant bodies and we're investigating on our part as well. But we must make this clear. We don't go after people for their opinions and views. No, we don't. In fact, we simply don't care. We don't care. But if this
But
person represents our
they need,
country,
Ali, they need to be called out because you're going to have lots of other young people doing almost, using him as a role model and thinking that it's okay. I can be offensive um, to my heart's delight, hurt people in the process, say the ugliest of things, knowing what is playing out in Palestine, and it's still okay, and I can still walk around like the kingmaker. It's not okay. We need to call
exactly.
them out. We need to call them out and we need to hold them to account. So yes, fine, you can support Zionism, but you're not going to represent us as far as our cricket is concerned and still go around boasting about it. Ali, we've got to
Mhm.
leave it there. I'm going to leave it to you to do further investigation and come back and report to us by way of another interview to say what the outcome was regarding that particular instance. The name of the youngster just escapes me for now, but I know you do know whom I'm referring to. So we're going
Mhm.
to leave it here and we will get back to you on this matter in the near future, as early as next week, in fact. Thank you indeed for your time. Thank you to Africa for Palestine for holding up that flag real high. We salute you guys. Thank you indeed for speaking out for the voiceless people of Palestine. God bless.
Thank you for having us.
It is exactly 12 after 10 o'clock. News and views wrapping up. Thank you to our content producer and the producer behind the technical board there, making sure that everything runs smoothly. I'll be back with you again tomorrow. So till then, take care and assalamu alaikum from me, Julie Ali.